Good afternoon. Welcome to our People Counting webinar presented by Optex and Xenometric. My name is Aude Debria. I'm the marketing manager for Optex EMEA. The webinar will be presented by two people. My colleague, Sandrine Cox. Sandrine has been working in the security industry for over 13 years. She joined Optex in 2011, and after different positions in the company, from project management role, she's now have a product development manager role for the new products. She will be presenting the sensor itself. Then Richard Gallois, the managing director of Xenometric, will be presenting his company, the software, the Xenometric software, which provides retail analytics and dashboards for people counting. Richard has been working for over 20 years in the people counting industry. He's been the head of research and development at Footfall, the company that became after Experian Footfall. So Richard will be talking more on the software side. So I will be also presenting the company. So Optex is probably best known for intrusion detection sensors. The company itself was founded in Japan 38 years ago. In 2014, Europe, Middle East and Africa headquarters has been set up in the UK, in Maidenhead. And we are dealing mainly with a security product from the UK, but also with new products such as people counting. So for the people counting, we got 80% market share in Japan. I will then hand over to Richard to present Xenometrics. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Richard Gallois. I'm a director of Xenometric. Xenometric is a software development company. We exclusively supply software to the people counting industry. Our software is being used to collect from thousands of counters across all 6 continents. And we're a small company who make software that's reactive to what the customers need. So we make a lot of custom software with bespoke outputs. And, we listen to what the customers want and make a solution that hopefully suits their needs. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Sandrine Cox. I'm Product Development Manager for Optex EMEA. I'll be taking part 1 of the presentation, talking about the reason behind counting people, and then going deep into the people counting hardware provided by Optex. Thank you all for taking the time to attend the webinar today. Questions will be taken at the end of the session. So, why count? Visitor count and analysis of the data obtained is a management tool which helps make key business decisions for retailers in particular. So people counting helps quantify visitors' flow, identify and understand customers' buying habits to increase revenue and profitability opportunities. So questions to ask when you're a retailer. Do you really know your visitors' habits? Another question. A large flow of visit purchase. That helps you establish the conversion rate, which is key to determining if a store or a mall is attractive to visitors. Another key point, expensive advertising campaigns are launched, but are they really effective? And how many extra visitors were attracted by the promotion and how many did buy? Another key question, how is the flow of visitors spread over the day? What are the peak times? What are the down times? How many sales advisors are in the shop? How many security officers in the mall? And are my staff scheduled in line with peak times? So those key questions are addressed to key decision makers within an organization, whether it's a retailer, whether it's a commercial building, and you're talking to store managers, event managers, marketing managers, project renewal, building development, and staff management. So it's a very different audience from our standard security audience, I would say. So one of the key applications for people counting is retail people counting. A second one, so the retail people counting allows you to get key performance indicators, which I mentioned earlier on. So peak times, down times, staff schedules, staffing costs and overheads can be reduced by having the right people at the right time in the right area of the mall. You can also identify if you have enough open points, point of sales. You can benchmark stores' performance, teams' performance, and regional performance as well. It helps you measure the effectiveness of your marketing campaigns, and the whole idea behind that is to improve customer service on one side, but also improve your conversion rate, because the important point to understand is store managers are paid a bonus on their conversion rates. So that's the one part for the retail side. Another reason for using people counting is for building occupancy. It's a bit different. It allows you to know the occupancy levels in a commercial or industrial building. So where are the people located, on which floor? It allows you to control maximum occupancy rates. For example, if you're a museum and you have a loaned masterpiece from another museum, one of the caveats of the contract is to only allow 25 people at a time to go and see the painting, because breathing on the painting could be damaging to it. So you can automatically calculate how many people are going into a room, put a limit on it, and stop people going in after the limit has been reached. It's also very important to know how many people are in the building to adapt your building energy performance or your building management system to the occupancy level, air conditioning, heating, lighting, even music levels. And it's also very important for directional flow. Where are people going? What is the most popular area of the building? And it helps with space utilization. Two other applications which are maybe less known about is that people counting is also a property manager tool. Determining which area of the mall is the more popular, especially if you have franchises and boutiques spread across the mall, helps you calculate rent. The more visitors, the more the rent. The less visitors, the less the rent. Another tool is the architectural tool. Architects love people counting. It helps them with directional flow and space utilization to maximize their design, a better, nicer space to work in or live in. So typical applications, we talked about retail and commercial facilities, department stores, shopping centers, office buildings, sport and leisure, transport, public facilities, library, museum, zoos, aquariums and theatre. Interesting point on museums in the UK, you don't pay to enter a museum, it's all free. And the museum are actually funded by the government. People counting is key to proving to the government that the museum is very attractive. The more people, the more funding. And after that, you can also look at people counting for exhibition halls and convention centres for temporary people counting applications. So about the sensor. Our sensor, the Optex sensor, is called Akribos VC1020, and it's the hardware, the people counter. It's a camera-based sensor which automatically provides in and out counts for customer traffic. It also helps with occupancy levels, and it's a 3D sensor with an algorithm which allows it to be extremely accurate. It offers multi-directional count as well, which is really interesting when you do flow of people studies or space utilizations. You can see some examples here on the right-hand side. So the idea is that the sensor is mounted. The only hardware you have to worry about when you're doing an installation in a mall, for instance, is that counting sensor. It goes on the ceiling at the entrance of your store or your franchise, and it's very easily installed. It has an accuracy of 97%, and the reason why it's so accurate being video-based is because it's originally a 2D sensor, but we're using 3D warping to make it a 3D sensor. It has onboard processing, object shape recognition, direction recognition. It's all done in real time, and it can identify multi-directional traffic, in, out, left, right, straight, and it can also understand and track complicated movements. Somebody walking slowly, hesitating, turning around. Even in peak times, it can track up to 65 people in the scene at 97% accuracy. And if as an option, you can choose to ignore trolleys. If you have a very highly reflective floor and spotlights, you can choose to ignore the shadows and the sunlight to make it more stable and accurate. You can also choose to exclude children. And for temporary application, it's quite interesting to see you have up to 30 days data storage. The count data is stored on board, and this count data needs to be collected by the analytics software, and that's done via schedulable data transfer on FTP and HTTP. In terms of installation, the installation is really, really fast. All the setting up is done via web-based interface, and everything is pre-configured to make the installation easy and the calibration really easy. You can do the calibration remotely. It has an optional high mount. Some areas, especially in transport, can have very high ceilings. So you have a little license that allows you to change the algorithm to allow it to go up to 6 meters height. In terms of wide entrances, the coverage is up to 4.5 meters width. It's obviously IP and PoE compatible. A little bit more about the image processing method, which is quite important. This is a patented method called vector focus and allows it to be so high in accuracy. So the system holds a predefined human body shape. You can see here the 2D image from the sensor is warped to make it a 3D image, and the camera uses this template to track the objects, the human body shape, throughout the entrance. And this is how the system can provide in and out count for people of various sizes, even if they're carrying out very complicated movements. I will assume that maybe not everybody is familiar with the counting method, but you will see here the way the count works. So you have A, B, C, D, 4 different people. We look at A. A will cross the blue line and go through the pink line. So blue line to pink line equals an in count. Person B will go through the first line, the blue line, but hesitate and come back out. Blue line to blue line equals no count. Person C is walking across the 2 pink lines horizontally, and that is no count. Person D goes from pink line to blue line, that's an out count. This is how it works. I mentioned a very easy calibration of the sensor. Once you have your sensor installed, you just quickly dial into your IP address and you go into the count setting tab. You enter your height, you choose, there's a preloaded counting 3D shape that's installed for you, and you can quite easily click on one of the numbers to refine it a little bit more. You can see that this can be done via Internet Explorer, Firefox, Chrome, Safari, Opera, or on the LAN. Calibration of the height and detection zone is easily completed remotely. There's a standard offset of 1.20 meters from the ground to exclude children, trolleys, shadows, and reflection from the ground. And the default depth is 2 meters. And you can see here on the right-hand side, the colorful squares show you the 8 predefined scenarios you can choose from. Now I will hand over to Richard to talk about the analytics. Obviously, one more point to make. The hardware alone, the people counter alone, will not be giving you any data unless you have the analytics software to talk to it, collect the data from. And that's why we've partnered it up with Xenometric. We provide the sensor, and Richard, as software, provides the analytics, the reporting, and the dashboards. Over to you, Richard. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandrine. Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Richard Galwar. I'm a director of Xenometric. Xenometric is a software development company. We exclusively supply software to the people counting industry. And what I'm going to talk about today is our generic products for collecting and disseminating people counting information. We also undertake custom projects when a customer has a unique application, and these are normally variants of our core products that add special outputs that the customer might need to involve things like access control or building management. Some of the things that Sandrine mentioned earlier, controlling the level of air conditioning, heating, noise levels, that sort of thing. We can split the sales opportunities in people counting into two groups. They're the new installations and the upgrade or replacement of existing technologies. Today I'm going to talk mainly about new installations, but we can bear in mind that we can often integrate existing data from old systems, or we can collect data from legacy counting hardware until the customer has the budget to replace what they are currently using with more accurate Akribos units. So there are a lot of installations out there that use infrared beams. We know them to be inaccurate, but we also know that customers can't afford to replace them all in one go. So we can often do a phased approach where we move them towards the Akribos solution. We can further subdivide opportunities by size and the level of available infrastructure. So a small family-owned store won't have the IT structure or provision the same as a giant retail chain. So we offer three different variants of our core products for people counting that tailor for different types of customer. Firstly, there is a cut-down product called XenoView that we'll talk about in more detail in a moment. And this is for very small installations or demonstrations. Our main product is called X Server, which the majority of our customers use, and we also offer a cloud version of X Server for those that want the full functionality but without the need for installations and IT infrastructure. And the cloud is also very useful for demonstrations because you can get moving very quickly. So X Server is a modular set of software services that's built around SQL Server. You can see on the right there are many components to it, and you can choose the components that are needed. So not everybody will want I/O output to control access control. Not everybody will want email reports, but you can choose the bits that your customer needs. So we can see here that we've got two different Akribos units, and these will be installed in the store. And the key message here is that when you install Akribos units in a store, you don't need to install software on computers. You don't need to install extra hardware like servers. The unit that goes in the ceiling and does the counting is completely self-contained. It does everything within the unit that connects to the network. Now, the network can be onto the internet, or it can be a customer's private network. As long as the Xenometric software can connect over a TCP/IP connection and collect the counts from the Akribos, then we can provide the information and the services that the customer required. So we don't need to worry about installing lots of extra hardware, so XenoView is the cut-down version of our core product, which is primarily used for very small stores. You can only connect up to 4 cameras to it, so it would be for customers who aren't part of a chain, and they might just want simple in and out counts on a budget, or you might want to use the same product for just local demonstrations or trials. It's very quick and easy to install. You can download it from the Xenometric website, and you can be up and running to prove the value of people counting without much overhead in terms of IT infrastructure. So X Server is actually the core product which the majority of customers would use. It's built around SQL Server. It has, as we saw before, many different modules you can add for web reporting, email reports, output files. The customers can access the SQL Server, and it's not limited in the number of connections. You can have hundreds or thousands of Akribos units talking to it. The reporting is available in multiple languages, and this system can be purchased outright, or it can be essentially hired on an annual license subscription. We can also offer exactly the same software, but in a cloud-based format. So Xenometric has a secure server based on a server farm in London, and we run the X Server software. And because the Akribos units are quite happy delivering their data over the internet, all of the data is securely saved in the SQL Server, and then we can generate the reports that can be viewed over the internet in web reporting, or we can send email reports, or the customer can still have access to file-based outputs from FTP, or they can access the database. And the cloud-based system is exclusively based on an annual license fee per camera connected. And finally, this is just a one-slide example of the people counting reports we offer. There are a great many different reports. Some people want to view their count data on an hourly basis. Other people are more interested in the weeks of the year and the comparisons of different entrances. There are a great number of reports, but if you have any particular requirements, I'd be very happy for you to email or ask questions at the end. And I think that concludes the Xenometric part, so thank you.
So to give you a bit more of insights on what we've been doing with the Optex sensor, the Akribos sensor, and Xenometric, we are going to discuss anonymously two particular case studies, one being a zoo and the other one being a retailer for homeware products. So we were approached by a zoo who had invested in a new type of animal with a whole family, including babies, which was obviously creating a lot of interest and a lot of visitors. But the babies were very, very stressed. So the zoo manager wanted to tune down the stress levels of the animals by managing the amount of people entering the enclosure for that particular species. And working together with Richard, we developed a solution customized for them, a kind of a display monitor with a green light and red light, allowing a certain amount of people to go into the enclosure and making the rest of the queue wait until those people had left the premises. Richard, if you want to talk a little bit more about it from your side.
Sure. It was a very fun project to work on. The requirement was to calculate the occupancy in real time, so that as customers entered the animal enclosure, the system would immediately react. And so when the enclosure reached a threshold that could be set by the zoo staff, we would limit the number of new entries by a traffic light system. And the scientists at the zoo were then able to adjust the threshold of how many people were in the enclosure until they found the optimum number that allowed the public to view the animals, but also kept the animals from being too stressed by crowds. So I think from the zoo's perspective, it was a scientific experiment to see if they could adjust the number of people until they found the optimum level to go forwards with keeping everybody happy.
Okay, thank you very much, Richard, for the details. And then we have another case study we can mention, which is this a retailer for homeware products. And again, the sensor, the Akribos sensor, was used for counting. And you, Richard, customized also your reporting and software for a very particular application. And I will let you explain it because you know it ins and outs.
For the majority of large-scale customers, in this case a retail chain, these type of customers have a great deal of IT infrastructure. They often have business intelligence tools, and what they are looking for is accurate cameras that can feed into their existing databases. So in this instance, we have Akribos cameras counting in every entrance, and sometimes counting between the different floors of the retailer. This data is fed into the Xenometric database, which is running on the homeware provider's own servers, and then we provide a feed into their business intelligence tools so that they can look at the people counting data alongside their sales data, staffing data, and all the other important feeds that help them run their business.
Thank you, Richard. I think we're nearing the end of the session, so we are going to contact details. We will be sending you a recorded version of the session if you wish to see it. We can also send you the presentation in PDF afterwards. And we are now going to attempt to take questions. So you have the questions already, Aude. So I will hand over to Aude so she can take the questions.
So if you have any question, you can use the section on, you can post a question and we will receive it, we'll see it, and then we will be able to take it. So if there's any of you who had a question, please just use the chat box and post your question and we will reply to it. So for the moment, the only question I had was regarding the documentation. So yes, indeed, we will provide, as Sandrine mentioned, we'll provide a PDF version of the presentation. There's been also a recorded made from this webinar, and so we will be able to send the link to you. We got also the data sheet, and we can also send you the section on our website where you can access the manuals. You can see a video on how it works live, and all the other question you need, the specification you need. So I just give you another little time to see if there is another question coming through. So I think there is one. Right, so there is a question saying, is the range of 4.5 meters of the camera enough? Is it ONVIF compliant?
Not being a CCTV camera, I mean, that's something I forgot to mention during my presentation. This is a people counter sensor, so always video-based. It is not a video surveillance camera, and as such does not require ONVIF certification. When I referred to 4.5 meter width, what I meant, that was the width of your entrance. So in retail, 4.5 meters, it's quite a wide area, and you can just use one sensor with directional counts. So in 4.5 meters, you could actually have two double doors, which could be monitored for count data by just the one sensor. So yeah, 4.5 meter is enough in general. If you have a much wider area, maybe you're thinking of airports, duty-frees, then you have to place several sensors with a little overlap, and the Xenometric software from Richard does the aggregation of counts. It's all about the installation and the overlap of the counting zones. I hope there's another question. Does the object need to leave the drawn area or need to leave the video image area? Okay. If you're really interested in finding out more about this, you can send me your details, and I'm happy to show you a live demo of the sensor. You can dial into it and you will see how it works. You have your counting lines, which are in different colors depending on the directions. So you have to create a sequence. So if you are coming from line blue to line a pink line, you have the sensor sees you before you cross the first line, and you have to cross the second threshold to be counted as in or out, depending on the traffic sense. So yes, you have to cross both lines to count as a one in or one out. That's the idea. That's how we can be very accurate. If you cross the first line but you change your mind, you don't cross the second line, you are not counted because you have not entered the area. I hope that answers your question, but I'm happy to connect onto a demo with you later on if you want and show it to you live. Another question? I think that's it. I can't see any other questions.
Okay, so I think we answered all the questions that have been posted online. So we would like to thank you all for your time today. We hope that's been interesting and useful for you. And again, we will send the presentation out, and feel free to reach out either to Sandrine or Richard for any further questions. Thank you very much. We will now stop the recording and stop the webinar. Thank you. Bye-bye.